everyone, this is Corey from This and That, and today's video I'm doing a $5 budget meals video. That's 5 meals for actually under $25. And the way that I did this was I chose a grocery store that I thought most people in the country would have locally, and that's of course Walmart. You can get some of these items a little bit cheaper at places like Aldi or perhaps on sale at your local grocery store, but this was a challenge that I could find a grocery store that most people had around them. So if they wanted to make these meals, they could go to Walmart, buy these items, and be able to make these meals. Now, another thing with all these meals is all of them have a vegetable in them. I know a lot of budget meals, they don't have a vegetable, so I did add some vegetables to each of the meals so that way it is included. Now, I know a lot of people are really feeling stressed right now because of how expensive everything is. Food prices just keep going up. So this was a challenge to myself to be able to help others out. It was also a challenge to myself, and I did not buy every single item on this list. I did make the list to show everyone that these are true $5 budget meals and they are under $25 for all of the grocery items, but I mostly got these items from my own pantry, so that way I did not have to go to the store and buy everything, because just like everyone else, I'm feeling the pinch as well. I'm going to go through the grocery list so you can see this is the prices from my local Walmart. And all of the items came to under $25. Some of these items you could even eliminate if they are not something that your family likes. I tried to keep the pantry staples really minimal. Things like butter, which most people have, or margarine, a small amount of milk, salt, pepper, garlic powder, Italian seasoning, onion powder, things like that that most people would have in their pantry already, because I wanted to keep these really true to the $5 and not be going out and buying a whole bunch of additional items that you needed to get. So let me go through the grocery list and then we're going to get into these $5 meals. So this is to show you these are true budget meals, and here's the price at the top. Let's go through. We have a can of baked beans. We have a 16-ounce box of pasta, Knorr broccoli and cheese, rice, green beans, which are a great price at 50 cents right now, mac and cheese, taco seasoning, Fiesta cheese in the 8-ounce package, kidney beans, the 20-ounce pack of tortillas, chicken broth in a can. I went with the low sodium. We have tomato sauce and diced tomatoes, and tomato sauce is the 29-ounce can because we use it for multiple meals. 2 packages of the cut cheaper broccoli in the frozen section, package of Bar S hot dogs, Kielbasa, 1 pound package of ground turkey, 2 cans of corn, and the last item is a 12-ounce can of chicken. I will also have this list in the description box so you can see exactly the sizes and what items they are. So our first meal is kielbasa with corn and beans. And here are my items from my pantry. So the first thing to do is to take the kielbasa and you're going to cut it into full moons and then half moons. This will just make the portions a lot easier. It makes you feel like there's actually a lot more kielbasa than there is. When you serve larger pieces, it feels like there's not much there. I'm adding it right to the pan. Now I have some oil in my pan because I do have a metal pan and I don't want them to burn and stick to the bottom. And then you're just going to brown these and serve them up just as they are. There's nothing special. I've got my can of corn going on the back here, and as soon as that's done, I'm going to put my beans on and get those going. And here are our plates with my daughters, my plate and my husband's plate, as well as a little bit of beans left over and also some corn left over. I gave my husband quite a generous portion, so you could have easily had enough to feed another adult or another child. These are the items we are going to need for our next meal coming up. Our next meal is pasta with meat sauce, green beans, and cheesy garlic bread. Just like I did with my other meal, I am using pantry staples with the exception of I went out and bought the 20 flour tortillas because I didn't have this. So the pantry staple items that we are going to need for this particular meal is we're going to need onion powder, we're going to need garlic powder, we're going to need Italian seasoning, and we're going to need either butter or margarine. The first thing I'm going to do is just take a little bit of olive oil. You don't need to do this step. I just have a metal pan. Put this on medium heat. So I'm going to take my turkey and I'm going to cut this roll in half because half of this meal is for this supper and half is for another night. Take 20 ounces of this sauce and I'm going to put it in here because we're going to use it for this meal. And I went with a larger can for the grocery menu for these meals because there were 2 meals that needed tomato sauce and it was more cost effective to buy a large can. So now I'm going to put 20 ounces in here. And I'm going to reserve the rest of this for another meal that I have. So this is what we're going to use to make our tomato sauce for this recipe. I do have a 1 pound bag of pasta and I am probably not going to use the whole bag. If you're a larger family, you can use the whole bag. We just don't need it for us. My pan's hot, so I'm going to get my turkey going in here. Is start adding my seasoning before the meat is cooked all the way through. So I'm adding some onion powder, and this is all to taste. Probably like a teaspoon or half a teaspoon would be fine. I just want to give the meat some flavor. Doing the same thing with the garlic powder and the same thing with the Italian, because this particular meat that I have is unseasoned. And I'm using a large saucepan because I want to add everything in later. Like my sauce is going to come in here, so, and eventually my pasta. I'm going to add about 3/4 of this bag in here. We just won't eat a full pound, so there's no sense. And the meat is just about done here. The meat is browned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in our tomato sauce. And this might look like a lot of sauce right now, but once you add the pasta into it, it's not going to be so bad. So now we're going to add some onion powder. This is kind of going to be to taste. Add probably like teaspoon, half a teaspoon, and then you can always add more later. I'd rather add a smaller amount and add more as I need it instead of adding too much at the beginning. Pretty generous with the Italian seasoning. We like garlic, so we're going to be generous with that. And of course, if you have the fresh versions, feel free if you have some at home. Just pretty much making our own sauce, giving it some flavor. I'm going to add, this is a no salt version that I have. Going to add just a little pinch, so there's just a hint of salt to it. If you have a salted version, you probably don't need to do that unless you really, really like salted things. So I added just a bit more seasoning and a tiny bit more salt just because I needed a little bit more flavor to my sauce. And I keep tasting it in between just to make sure it's the way my family likes it. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, and you can feel free to add other seasonings in as well if you have them. This is the first batch. There's so much it didn't fit in my strainer. I'm also adding my green beans on now into the back stove. So now I'm going to mix all of this up, and you can see there's a pretty healthy portion here. This just gives you an idea of how much this meal can feed somebody. I'm just going to mix everything really, really good, so that way all of the noodles have sauce on them. You don't want any feeling left out. And I just have my heat pretty much on low just to keep this warm while I am getting the green beans cooking, and then I'm going to start the cheesy garlic bread. Next, I'm going to make some cheesy garlic bread, and this is just a very simple way to do it that's cost effective since I'm using these tortillas for other meals as well. So all I'm going to do with these is I'm going to take, so you can take either butter, margarine, and we are just going to spread it all over the tortilla, as little or as much as you want. And then what I'm going to do is take some garlic powder and just generously put that over the butter. And then we're going to use about 3 ounces. So this is a 6-ounce bag, this particular brand of cheese that I have. And we've used half of it already. So this is about how much is left. So there's more than enough here to make cheesy garlic bread. So all you have to do is take a few of these, and either in the toaster oven, your oven, you could maybe even do them on in a pan. You could easily put some butter on the back side of this and put this onto a flat pan, like a pancake pan, and that would also work. I'm going to use tin foil so I don't have a giant mess. I'm going to make 2 of these at a time. If you wanted to make more than 5, there should be plenty here. I'm just going to broil mine just for a few minutes until the cheese melts. So I'm going to take these out. They smell amazing. Nice. Cheesy garlic bread. And you can cut these any way you'd like. You could cut them into strips like this. Or you could cut them into like a pizza. Like this. Any way that you want to serve them, you can cut them up. Here we have our plates all set out, the cheesy garlic bread with the pasta and meat sauce and the green beans in pretty generous portions, and yet I still had leftovers. So here's a look at how much I had left over, easily enough for another Dollar Children. So today's meal is a 1-pot chicken, rice, and broccoli meal. And the ingredients for the recipe call for a 12-ounce can of chicken. I did not have the broccoli and rice one, so I'm using this creamy chicken one. I'm using, instead of water, which is what it calls for on the back of all of these packages, I am using chicken broth, which just gives it some extra flavor. And I did have a can of the reduced sodium chicken broth that I bought the other day for the recipe, but I canned some chicken broth last night, and while this was in the pressure canner, the glass broke. So I'm going to use this instead of the Walmart brand chicken broth. And this is a 24-ounce bag, so I'm going to use half of this because the recipe calls for 12 ounces. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chicken broth. You're going to need 1 3/4 cups. So I'm going to use my homemade chicken broth. There's 1 cup. And oops, that was 3/4, sorry, and this is 1 cup.
Oops.
And there's not very much left, so I'm going to just use the whole thing. Can you do the same thing? Because this has got about 2 cups in it as well. If you want to use the whole thing, go ahead and use it. The next thing I'm going to do is add in my broccoli, because the broccoli takes the longest amount to cook. So again, I have a 24-ounce bag, so I'm going to use half of this bag. I want to get this cooking because it's frozen. It's going to take the longest amount of time. So there is half my bag. So what I want to do is cook this until the broccoli is nice and soft and almost tender. So you don't want it to be mushy, because we are going to be adding our rice and then our canned chicken in as well. Right now we just want to cook the broccoli down till it's just starting to get soft. So the next thing, and really the only pantry item you need, is milk. Can be any type of milk. You need a 1/4 cup. That's a little over, sorry. Oops. And you're gonna bring this to a boil, which it is already boiling. And these are all just slightly fork tender, so I'm gonna start adding this in. It calls for margarine as well, but I never use margarine in this. And this is just a dry packet. I'm gonna put this in. It's already boiling, so I'm just gonna let it sit for a few minutes. I'm also gonna get the chicken and dump the chicken in as well. So all of this cooks together. So I drained most of the water out of the chicken, not all of it, just so there's a little bit more of that chicken flavor. And right now it doesn't look very appetizing, but I promise it will be better. I'm just breaking up the chicken so that way it is smaller pieces and this can all cook evenly. I'm going to let this sit for just a little bit, and then I'm going to lower it and let it soak up all these juices. So this is now done. It's a nice broccoli and chicken and rice meal that was all done in one pot, and you've got several servings here. I'll show you how they look plated up. So here's what it looks like all plated up. My daughter's plate, my plate, and my husband's plate. And this is how much is left over, which would easily serve a 4th person. Or if you have kids, you could easily divide this up between 1 or 2 more kids. There's definitely plenty here for at least 4 people. Our next meal, we're making a taco soup. And for this recipe, we need taco seasoning. We're going to use the other half of the 1 pound, so half a pound of ground turkey. We're going to use the tomato sauce we had left over from our 29-ounce can that we used from another recipe. We need whole corn, and we need kidney beans or any type of beans that you would like. You should also have 4 ounces of shredded cheese left over from not using the entire bag to make the cheesy garlic bread. And there should also still be a small amount left over so we can use it for our last meal. So really the only thing needed for this recipe is a little oil if you don't want your turkey to stick to the bottom, and also onion powder because we're not using an onion and this recipe calls for an onion. So we're going to add in our turkey first after we put in our oil. You don't have to put an oil in. I don't like it to stick to the bottom of my pan. And I like to add my seasonings before the meat's been completely browned. I just find that it kind of locks in the flavor, so to speak. And you can either use onion powder, you can use, if you have them, you can always use minced onion as well. I'm going to use the onion powder because that's what most people have in their kitchens. So we're going to use that, and I'm going to generously flavor this meat with the onion, because the recipe that I'm using calls for regular chopped onions, and since I'm not using that, when you use an onion powder or any of those types of powders like garlic powder, you got to use a little bit more to actually get as much as if you were putting in the actual ingredient like real garlic or onion. So we're going to get this going, and as soon as this has been browned, then I'm going to start adding in the other ingredients. So now the turkey meat is all browned. I didn't drain any of the fat that's in here. There's really not much, so I'm just leaving it in here. And the next things we're going to do is they tell you not to drain any of the canned goods. So obviously you don't want to drain the diced tomatoes. Get those all stirred in really good. I got petite dice because we do not like large tomatoes in our stuff. So you can get whatever works for your family. Do not drain the corn. The recipe calls for undrained corn. And then any type of beans, I went with kidney beans. The last 2 things we're going to stir in is there should be 8 ounces of sauce left, 8 or 9 from the large, either 28 or 29 ounce can of tomato sauce that we had left over. We also have the taco seasoning packet, which is very important to get that taco flavor. Dump that in. And then the very last thing that they suggest is to add another 8 ounces of water. So I'm just going to add 8 ounces of water, and then I'm going to let this all cook for about 15 minutes. And while this is cooking on the stove, I'm going to start working on making our own crunchy either tortilla chips or tortilla strips that are going to go with our soup. So we're going to make our own tortilla chips or tortilla strips that we're going to make out of our flour tortillas that we bought. 20 count package is perfect for making all of these different things. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a cookie sheet and I'm going to spray it down with any type of oil. I'm just using avocado oil, but you can use whatever you have. And what I'm going to do is that's going to help brown this. I'm also going to spray, and we'll do 6 to make it even on here. I'm going to also spray the tops of these because I want them to get crispy, and I'm going to broil these in the oven. You can broil them in a toaster oven. You can put them in an air fryer, whatever works for you. Just take a little bit of salt, just so they have that little bit of salty flavor. You know, just a small bit. I took 1 pinch and I did all of them with 1 pinch. You can skip this step if you choose to, and then I'm going to put this in an oven until these are browned, and then I will cut them up. Now I did flip these halfway through so they can crisp on both sides. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and I'm pretty much going to cut them into strips. I think the strips might be easier for my family to eat. It's kind of like having the little crispy ones that you can buy in like a can from the store. I'm actually going to do them, some of these in half as you get to the middle. It's a little on the large side. Apparently I can't cut straight today. So here's what our plates look like. And one of the things I forgot to mention, you should have cheese left over too from when we did our other meal. And we did the cheese on our cheesy garlic bread. So there should be plenty of cheese still left because it was an 8-ounce bag. So there's plenty here to put cheese onto the soup to melt. And then you can top with tortillas. They're not the most beautiful looking because I didn't do a great job cutting mine. But it just gives you an idea. And if you have avocados, if you have sour cream, if you have other things already at home, then you can also use those as well. So there is easily enough left here for a 4th or 5th person, or if you want to have leftovers. So it is plenty still here left over. So our final meal is a simple one. It's going to be hot dogs, mac and cheese, and broccoli. And as with my other meals, I am using pantry items that I already have in my house. So all I've done is I've got some broccoli going on the stove. I'm boiling it, and I've got my water boiling for my macaroni. So I'm going to add that in. And I'm just following whatever the package instruction says, which usually to add some milk, some butter, and the cheese packet. I am just adding milk. I don't usually add butter to ours. So we're going to get this going. So my pasta is done cooking. I'm going to drain this, and I'm going to add my hot dogs. I'm just going to cook them in a pan and just brown them a little bit. Now you should also have some cheese left over. There should be about 2 or 3 ounces left. I'm adding 2 ounces of milk, which is what the recipe called for. I've got the cheese packet that came in the bag. I'm just going to take a little bit of the cheese and I'm going to add it in here just to make it a little bit creamier. Just going to add some of this in. Just give it some extra cheesiness and let it melt in there. I'm just browning the hot dogs a little bit to cook them instead of putting them like in a microwave. You can also boil hot dogs. There's so many different ways that you can cook them. We just like having a little bit of brown on them. So here are our plates all laid out. My daughter's plate, my plate, and my husband's plate. And I still have broccoli, some mac and cheese, and a hot dog left. I was pretty generous with the portion for my husband's plate, so there easily could have been more, but that is our final $5 budget meal. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope you will consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. And as always, my friends, stay safe and be well.